I know you're probably not really going to sympathize or understand with this problem, but every now and again while doing a rumination, I have a problem where I'm watching something or I'm playing something, and a huge period of time goes by where I don't write anything down. Because I have nothing to write down. It's like, yep, stuff's happening. Yep. Oh, wait, no, there's nothing to discuss there. I had that problem with a huge chunk of this episode. Almost everything with the Lanier side of the plot, I have summarized with 3 lines of text. So, I'm going to cover that first. There's actually 4 lines total, because I do love the fact that Delenn freaking breaks the guy's finger. I really like that scene. As he is like, oh, it's okay, and he comes on to her, and at first it's just your typical, I'm drunk or rowdy and want an attractive woman thing. And then it shifts a little bit into a completely different perspective of him saying, I'm the face that you're going to be seeing in the morning now. And it's like, really? I find myself wondering if he legitimately doesn't recognize one of the leaders of the Interstellar Alliance, or if he's just that drunk or stupid, or doesn't care. Forgive me just one moment. Yeah, there we go. Like a bit of fuzz down there, and I just wanted to clean up that area. I keep wipes right by my desk, just in case. So, Lanier agrees to go look into this situation. Now, I want to remind you guys of something. This whole Centauri being used by the Drakh in order to attack the other Alliance races, in order to break up the Alliance, even though that would actually really hurt the Centauri people, as a specific intention in order to cause chaos, because the Drakh hate everyone, thanks to the Shadow War consequences. I mean, none of this is spoilers. We've all figured this out already. We, the audience, have already figured out what's going on. All of this is really important. This is pretty much the big crisis point that's going on, and well, is basically the only crisis point left in the show at this point. The telepath war is just kind of on the back burner. Clark and the Clark administration are effectively dealt with. Shadows are gone, Vorlons are gone. The Narn are actually renovating themselves culturally. This is about what we got left. This is the big last hurrah. And we already know all the steps, because we've already seen the future, remember? Remember that? We've already seen Emperor Londo and a burning city. They also showed that in the beginning, in addition to War Without End. So we've seen that twice now. We know where this path is going. So this is, ignoring my problems with this, because I'll get to that in a second. This is something very important. This is the biggest, this is on the priority list for the Galactic Alliance. This is item number 1. Nothing is above this. They really need to be on this. And so Delenn calls to the one person she trusts, Lanier, saying, Lanier, this is you. I need you to look into this. This is critically important. And Lanier, credit to the actor, manages to look and behave disappointed, as if he was hoping this was something more, because, well, let's just say that for all of his preaching and all of his supposed self-control, Lanier, how do I put this properly? I wouldn't say Lanier is pining after her. Lanier is Minbari pining after her. Now, I know what you're saying. What do you mean? The Minbari take stuff to 11 as a natural course. That's their normal. We actually see that in this episode. One of the Minbari, I can't remember his name, forgive me, but the other pilot, the one Lanier helps, is so distraught and so wigged out at the idea that he is a failure, that he cannot go home in shame, that he is unacceptable in where he is and doesn't know his place in life, decides to kill himself! Okay, I understand suicidal thoughts probably better than most. I've been there more than once. But, oh no, I'm not doing good at my job isn't really something that would push me in that direction. But I'm not a Minbari. Minbari take everything to extremes. That we've seen this over and over and over and over again. Minbari have this thing about commitment, about action, about how this goes all the way this way, and it has to go this way because that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it should be, right? So it makes sense for Lanier to look at this situation and really take his unrequited love of Delenn, although, to be blunt, I wouldn't call what Lanier is feeling love, personally. His unrequited feelings about Delenn to the utmost extreme, to the point where, I'm going to reiterate this because it's really important, being given a galactically critical mission makes him go, oh, well, I was hoping for some us time. I was hoping this was something else. Apparently, and I have to say this that way, people were accusing JMS of this episode being a filler episode. Those people are stupid. As much as I didn't have a lot to write down about the Lanier plot, and indeed, I'm basically done already, this is clear establishment. This is JMS's writing style 101. He is setting up domino pieces on the board. Because you notice that everything that the other guy that Lanier is coaching is going through is a mirror of what Lanier himself is going through. Lanier did not join the Rangers for the right reason. He did not become part of this for the right purpose. He probably regrets everything he's been doing. Morden flat out told him that to his face. There's this wonderful line right at the end where the captain, Captain Montoya, I don't know why I remember his name and not the Minbari. Clearly I'm specious, right? Captain Montoya says, I want you to be the recruitment officer. I want you to make sure, for their sake, for our sake, and for everyone's sake, that anyone who wants to join is joining for the right reasons. That they know and are sure about signing up. I want you to make sure of that. I mean, if you just suddenly turned the camera around and he was talking to Lanier, you wouldn't have to change the dialogue one word. The lack of oxygen thing was actually kind of a nice little tidbit, if I may be so bold. It's a little bit too obvious. Hey, our oxygen's lower than usual, even though we just checked it. Oh, hey, the ship just left. Okay, this is a test. Then again, I've noticed in fiction a lot of times when it's pretty obvious they're being tested, that they're not actually being tested. Or, I'm saying this wrong. God, I'm sorry. That they don't realize they're being tested. That they see something and they're like, hey, you know, obviously this is a test, but they don't recognize it. You know, a great modern example of that is Kingsman. There are a lot of times when it was obviously a test and they didn't really pick up on that fact. Shrug. Sometimes it can go the other way as well. And of course, Lanier once again lies to protect the honor of someone else, as Lanier has done, you know, I've lost count, several times prior to now throughout the course of the series. That's it. That's the Lanier section. Cool stuff. Build up. We'll see how that pays off. I like the interactions between G'Kar and Franklin. Some of it feels a little bit like JMS being able to talk about his own mentalities in his writing, but I don't begrudge him that really, as long as he doesn't get preachy, and he doesn't. JMS doesn't really do preachy all that much. And a lot of writers like doing that. I do that subconsciously when I was younger, and far more consciously now that I'm older. Ideas of tolerance and acceptance are a rather recurring theme in my written works, because I believe strongly in tolerance and acceptance, so, you know, it's that kind of a thing, right? So it doesn't really bother me. I do love what they do with it, however, because G'Kar has asked a question, and it is a loaded question. Might actually be the most loaded question. I'd say at the very least it is tied for the most loaded question that has ever been asked in human history. What is truth? What is God? So G'Kar gives this thoughtful, meaningful, neutral response to this that discusses the ideas and philosophies, concepts of morality, concepts of self and examination, meaning, purpose. It's very well done, very well written, and of course brilliantly acted, because Andreas Katsoulas is amazing. Then the guy says, yes, but what is truth and what is God? Because he didn't get an answer to his question, or, to be more accurate, he didn't get the answer he wanted. I really don't want to step into this, but all I'm going to say is that this is another excellent demonstration of the difference between spiritual and religious. Because what Jacquard's answer was, his initial answer, was very spiritual. His second answer was a little more religious, because they didn't want something that makes them think or concept or understand or have to examine things. They wanted something that they could write down in a book and say, this is dogma. That's a religion, by the way. Organized. Several people getting together and saying, we all think this, therefore we shall act upon this. That is religion, organized political entity that happens to handle spiritual affairs. Again, not saying that's a positive or negative. Do not put words into my mouth. But the distinction is clear-cut here. Also, I have to point out that this is another example of lines, which just came up in the previous episode. It is so much easier to draw a dividing line, even when it comes to concepts, not just people. You know, what is good? Kittens are good. Therefore, I don't have to ever think about kittens for the rest of my life or anything about them. Kittens good. Now, that may sound like a weird example, but I use that one particularly because I still have a scar to this day. You won't be able to see it. It's actually under my eyebrow here. I have a scar to this day from where a kitten got a claw in there and never let go. And that may sound like an accident, but no, that was a feral kitten. And it was kind of a bad situation. I didn't know what I was doing, so that's partially on me. But in that circumstance, what I did, walking up to that kitten, was thought, well, kittens are good. And that was my mistake. Because I wasn't thinking about the situation or the circumstances, I had drawn a line. And I screwed up. And I have a scar now because of that. Hurt like hell at the time. I can't explain to you what it's like to have a weight hanging from your eyebrow. It's just a weird sensation. Anyways. Point being, these Narn want a line. And it's interesting because Franklin over there is just like, you know, whatever. Jacquard should probably be a little bit more careful about what lines he puts down, though, because they're going to write them down. And that may keep going for a long time. We also see Garibaldi getting much worse. And I mean much worse. His descent is probably a little more accelerated than it should be, but again, we're shrunk to a single season, so they got to do something with it. So he's just nosediving right now. And he clearly does not have it under control. This is not, I had a drink because I was wigged out about something in my life. This is not, I had a drink because I screwed up and need to recover from it. This is, I had a lot of drinks and I'm laying splayed out on the floor, a mess. This is still romanticized. This is still televisionized or Hollywoodized or whatever you want to call it. I have unfortunately seen real-life drunk, and I mean sloshed, needing to be taken to the hospital, drunk person in my life like this. It's not pretty. It's not fun. It's not anything good. So this is still a little bit romanticized, but it's clear that's the intention they're trying to get across, is that Garibaldi is just... Also, he calls for a suicide pizza. If you don't know what a suicide pizza is, I'm actually not going to talk about it. I think you can put two and two together on that one. Londo finds the listening device. Now, first of all, that scene was gold. Probably my favorite scene. Well, no, excuse me. My second favorite scene in this episode. Londo just, oh, yes, his wife, he comes back and she's so tired after all the, you know, just laying into it and then, oh, whoops, smush. I love that. It's great stuff, especially Vir trying to get used to the idea of faking the conversation. What I find more interesting is that Londo had a device that beeps when it detects a nearby eavesdropping device. I mean, of course he does. In hindsight, that actually makes perfect sense. That's the kind of thing that Londo probably carries around with him in his pocket on normal circumstances. So I love the idea that he's just like, oh, hang on. My favorite scene is Vir's scene. You are puny and small, Vir, and you will go away before I will hurt you. Vir, I kid you not, while I was watching this, just like 30 or 40 minutes ago, however long it's been right now, I didn't stop laughing for the entire scene. I was trying to sketch down my notes about this, and it's a mess on my page. And I had to go back and pause the episode to go back and write the other thing I wanted to write down. Vir picking up the sword. I just need this for a second. I need to borrow this. I need to borrow this for a minute. Yeah! I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But in addition to being an awesome Vir scene, it's actually very important. Because it's Vir establishing himself. Everyone makes fun of Vir. Everyone looks down at him. And as we've shown many times, everyone is wrong for doing so. For all of his bumbling ineptitude, Vir is very wise, very perceptive, and knows how to get things done. He is quite capable and quite competent. I wouldn't kill, because I don't kill. I would listen to Finny Fun again. Bonus points if you know what I'm talking about. In order to have Vir as an assistant. Because holy hell, that man. More to the point, though, now he has a little bit more, shall we say, cred. And cred, even though it is a completely ineffable, intangible thing, is immensely important to have when you are a diplomat. I also really like something else. This is my last point I'm going to talk about. God, all of Season 5 is going to be kind of short on this one. Oh, real quick, I like the McBarons or McBarnes or whatever. I can't even read my whole handwriting. Anyways. Why did the Drazi suspect the Centauri? Now, the scene where Londo comes in and basically just drops the hammer on the Drazi ambassador is an excellent scene. This is Londo being reasonable, it's worth noting. Londo comes in and is like, look, I know you did this. You know you did this. We're stronger than you. He doesn't say it that way, though, because, well, he's a skilled politician, and he knows how to talk his way around those words while still saying them. It's a wonderful scene. But why would the Drazi suspect the Centauri? Well, as ever, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and answers on this. Feel free to pause if you'd like to, and go ahead and type it down in the comments below. But I am going to give you my answer right now. I don't think they did. I don't think they suspect the Centauri at all. I think the Centauri are on the other side of a line. I know this just keeps coming up. I know this is so stupid, and my terminology is not exactly what you'd call eloquent, but I would say lines, as I've defined them, is the theme of Babylon 5, Season 5 specifically. Because the Centauri were aggressors in the past. The Drazi still have hostility towards Londo in particular, and the Centauri Republic as a whole. I don't know why I keep trying to trill that R. Nah. They don't like them. They have previous bad blood history there. And, this is really important, the Centauri are weaker than they've been in a long time. Possibly ever. At least as far as intergalactic history goes. So the Centauri are relatively weaker, and they hate them, and they're an excellent scapegoat. Because, I mean, well, let me put it to you this way. Anyone remember how many nations were dancing around Germany post-World War II? And post-World War I, for that matter. Anyone remember that? I mean, obviously I wasn't alive at that point in time. I'd have to be a Time Lord or something to pull that off. But the point is that, historically speaking, people were quick to blame Germany if something went wrong. And there were a lot of attempts at false flag operations, some of which succeeded, some of which didn't, in order to try and slant things against Germany. And it's so easy to understand why. People had a grudge against Germany, and Germany had a history of being an aggressive conquering force. They were considered the bad guys of World War I, after all. And, of course, well, there was the whole Nazi situation in World War II. Same type of concept here with the Centauri. Not that I'm calling the Centauri Nazis. Please don't do that. It's the same concept. We don't like you. We have bad blood with you. And everyone knows you were the bad guys, right? You guys let the shadows walk in. You were on the shadows' side and all that. I don't think the Drazi suspect the Centauri at all. I think the Drazi, who actually have a history of being conniving, unethical, moralistically bankrupt bastards, which has been shown many times at this point, are wanting to shift all the blame onto the Centauri as a political move. And to be honest, it's a smart move to make. You know, if I take reasonability and thought and ethics and morality out of the equation, it's a smart move. They need a blame figure right now. They need someone to point their fleets at. And the Centauri, well, they're a great target right now. Just swoop in, smush, raise morale. If you're wrong, who cares? At the very least, you're doing something, so the politicians and the military and the civilians, the people back home, see your government taking action to defend them. And it's not like their lives matter. They're Centauri, not Drazi. Anyways, food for thought. As ever, looking forward to your guys' comments. I'll see you next time.